Vox was so close to getting it right, but you just couldn't do it, could ya? Could ya? You couldn't. Vox couldn't try and be fair. They were close. So close. Just not, well, actually, I'd say they're close enough, but they could do better. This is an article. Why workplace bans on facial hair marginalize men of color. Men who work in food service business, the military, or the public sector often run into beard bans. Let me just make something entirely clear. Banning facial hair, period, is sexist because women tend not to have facial hair. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying businesses shouldn't be allowed to do it, whatever. The point is, Vox, you're so close. Workplace bans on facial hair marginalize men, period, because there are many men who are not of color who have reasons to have beards, religious reasons, which they do bring up. But for some reason, I guess it's only the color people of color who have beards and are religious, not just men in general. They couldn't you know what the problem is? Because if they said workplace bans on facial hair marginalize men, they'd get backlash. Naturally, because you can't be sexist against men. But they have this picture of this man, Google CEO Sundar Pichai, has a beard. But facial hair restrictions at work affect many men of color. I want to make one thing clear, too. This man is the opposite of marginalized. Period. This is the CEO of Google. He is probably one of the wealthiest people in the world. He can buy elections illegally. He can get away with committing crimes because he has all this wealth. One of the reasons that Tim Pool is a social liberal. Oh God, that's a bad habit. I shouldn't do that. One of the reasons I am a social liberal. Because I recognize there's two sets of rules. If you're poor and you get locked up and you can't afford to post bond or anything, yeah, you're screwed. If someone lies about you, defamation case, and you don't have the money to hire a lawyer to go after him, you look at Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel took down Gawker. He did. He funded Hulk Hogan's lawsuit. Wealth is power. It's true, okay? I recognize that. Unfortunately, a lot of people who claim to be on the left, who are actually illiberal reactionaries, would look at this man and say he's marginalized. But this guy has 200 orders of magnitude more power than I do, and 2,000 orders of magnitude more power than the average person. And the reason I'm saying I have more power is because I have a big YouTube channel. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Social media is another form of power. And I, as a mixed race person, do not feel marginalized in the least bit because I have 165,000 followers on Twitter. And you know what that means? That means that when a business makes my burrito wrong and refuses to fix it, I can tweet, "You made my burrito wrong," and they will bend over backwards to give me free burritos. It means that when I miss a flight, I can tweet, "Hey, American Airlines, you screwed me over on this flight," and they will give me a free flight because there is power in the platform that I have, that I've admittedly built up on through someone else's company, admittedly. The point is, I would never, as a social liberal, pretend that the working class white family is more privileged than I am in any way. I'd flat out be like, I've got 2 YouTube channels. One's got 76,000 subs now. One's got 210. Got 165,000 followers on Twitter. That is power. That is. And that puts me in a position of privilege that I recognize. And I think this is what really bothers me. I should read the article, but this is what really bothers me about the illiberal reactionary left. This idea that white people are privileged, period, and that we should do things to the benefit of non-white people, to minorities. And it's like, but what about people like me? I am technically a white male for sure, but technically not, right? It's a weird limbo that I get to exist in between the left and between the ideas of the liberal left and everyone else. Because admittedly, the average person is not racist, but now we've got this illiberal reactionary left starting to dominate. And they say things like, if I agree with them, if I'm like, you know what, yes, socialism, they're like, see, you're mixed race. And if I say, hey, how about, private ownership and the rights of the individual, and they're like, you're a Nazi. It's like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Point being, I am someone who can recognize that I do have privilege, not entirely because of my race. I do feel that in some instances, there are benefits to my race and my gender, and there are some times where it is a detriment. It's hard to quantify. But let's see how Vox got so close to getting it right. They say, Kenyon Strother loves almost every aspect of his job as a hospitality professional at ChickfilA. He works in the kitchen of a South Carolina franchise of the fast food chain, cooking meats and vegetables, and says the company has great benefits and good wages. There's just one problem. The employee dress code requires him to be clean-shaven. That's a challenge for Strother because, like many black men, frequent shaving causes him to develop razor bumps, which can lead to dark marks, scar tissue, and even infection. In addition to painting a very narrow image of what constitutes professionalism, bans on facial hair pose medical risks for men who suffer from razor bumps and can alienate men who wear beards for religious reasons. You recognize that all men can suffer from razor bumps and that all men can be religious. I assure you, there are white Muslims. Like, there are literally people of, European, Scottish, Irish, just general white blonde-haired individuals. Okay? They have beards. There are Muslims who are white who have beards. That means making them shave is religious discrimination. Specifically, it's religious discrimination targeting men, because women tend not to have facial hair. Why then, Fox, couldn't you just say workplace bans on facial hair marginalize men? Was it so hard? They say restrictions on beards pose more barriers to employment for men of color, particularly black men and Indian Americans who practice Sikhism, one of the world's largest religions. Men from both groups have sued over beard bans, but a corporate sector that has historically normalized whiteness and othered minorities continue to prohibit facial hair. But white people have beards too. White men have beards, making them shave it for the same reasons. White people can be Sikhs. Oh my God. It says particularly black men. Why? White guys can get beard bumps too, or razor bumps too. I don't understand why this is so hard for them to recognize. Companies ban beards, ignoring that razor bumps are a legitimate medical issue. Yes, for everyone. I believe it is true that it affects black men more than white men, but can't we recognize that if 10% of black men suffer from this, but only 2% of white men, you are still marginalizing both groups by forcing them to do something which could be detrimental to their health? Just because there are more of one minority compared to white people, it's all of a sudden not an issue for white people? My word. So it says razor bumps, known medically as pseudofolliculitis barbae, I think I got that right, are an inflammatory skin condition. They mostly affect people with coarse, curly hair who remove it by shaving or plucking. When tightly coiled hair is shaven closely, it may retract below the skin surface and break through the follicle wall. The razor bumps that result can lead to dark marks, scar tissue, and even infection. The best treatment for the problem is to stop shaving altogether. But many men work for companies that bar facial hair. Workers in food service, the military, and public service jobs commonly run into such bans. And men who run Fortune 500 companies typically don't have facial hair either. But that trend may be changing. Hey, Jack Dorsey's got a crazy beard, right? CEO of Twitter. Younger executives such as Google's Sundar Pichai and Sergey Brin wear beards, as did Steve Jobs later in his career. Look, beards are in, they're out, whatever. It's a fashion thing. Sometimes guys shave, sometimes they don't. But I love how, let me put it this way. This is a good thing for men, period. Although they are framing it as though it is only men of color who are marginalized by these issues, and then go on to highlight that Steve Jobs, who is a white man, wore a beard, the point is, if this changes rules so that all men can wear beards, well, that's not so bad, is it, I guess? They can frame it however they want, but the truth is, men in general have facial hair. Just having facial hair can make men targets of employment discrimination. Practicing Sikhs who wear beards for religious reasons have filed lawsuits against companies that have denied them jobs because of their appearance. Medical groups, convenience stores, and even the U.S. Army have been sued for discriminating against Sikhs because of their beards. And it's important to note that you can just be whatever religion you want. There's no test you have to take to prove that you're Sikh. You can literally just practice. Like, we have freedom of religion in this country. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a Sikh, you got to fill out a form and join a club. But I'm pretty sure whether or not the larger group accepts you, you can say you adhere to these religious beliefs. In which case, it doesn't matter what your color is. It doesn't matter what your race is, Kenyon Strother first raised concerns about his ChickfilA facial hair ban during his employee orientation 4 months ago. He recalled a human resource officer telling him that perhaps he'd be the one to change the company's policy. Although Strother put a petition on coworker.org to lift the ban that has garnered 1,600 signatures, spoken to his managers, and even presented them with a doctor's note about his medical condition, he said ChickfilA has not budged on its policy or exempted him from the clean-shaven rule. And they apparently didn't respond to a comment either. My wife is a nurse, and she said, "You're going to have scar tissue. I'm literally shaving over the razor bumps. I've tried clippers. I've tried one blade straight razors. I spent money on steroid creams for my neck. I'm almost in tears when I shave because I start bleeding. I have to take Tylenol. It's so bad." And this is why I believe if you have a doctor's note, they shouldn't be allowed to say you can't have a beard. And I've been to places where they wear the beard masks. Like, it's like a hairnet, but for your beard. What's the problem? You know, this affects everybody. You know what I mean? Dr. Carlos Charles, a New York City dermatologist who specializes in treating patients of color, said that he's seen a number of men struggle with razor bumps while working for organizations that prohibit facial hair. At his New York City practice, Dermy de Color, he's treated city workers, like policemen and firefighters, with a condition that he calls pseudofolliculitis barbae, a huge issue. It's really challenging for any man, irrespective of work environment, Charles said. Any man. Boom. Irrespective of work environment. We tried to give them some advice along the line of shaving correctly, shaving with the grain of the hair, using a sharp blade. We'll also prescribe different topical creams, some retinoids, topical antibiotics. And they have this nice photo of LeBron James who's got that really stylish shave going on. Laser hair removal is one of the most effective ways to remove unwanted hair. You know, I'm really impressed with how long this is. Here we go. After pressure from a 3-year campaign, Publix lifted its beard ban. All right, we get it. Vox, you wrote a really long article about this. I don't know why. It says, this rule was put in place decades ago when mostly white people worked for the company, Struther said. I have no problem following the rules. I just like following rules that make sense. I agree with that. And I just want to point out how in no way did this article have to specifically be about people of color, as I've stated, simply because any man can be any religion. There's a million different reasons why someone would want to have a beard, and men have beards. Vox, you're so close. Why couldn't you just... Why couldn't you do it? What is that? Whatever, man. I think everybody's nuts. I've got some more videos coming up in just a few minutes to prove that more evidence about how everybody's nuts. Stick around.